Good to see you.
He's the head of the Opportunity Hub here in Atlanta.
Right. I apologize. We didn't introduce before. But Rodney, tell people very briefly what you do and how you feel about what Ben's saying.
Sure. We're co-founders, my wife and I, of the Opportunity Hub. It's one of 2 Black-owned co-working spaces in the country.
Wow.
Black-owned?
Black-owned co-working
Only
spaces.
2?
Yes.
Oh my God.
One in Chicago, Blue 1647 with Emil Camry.
Why so few?
I think we don't have time to really go deep.
Let's just celebrate that we're talking to somebody who runs. He runs half of the Black.
Yeah. So you're 50% of all Americans.
We will change that. I mean, we have a thesis that you innovate out of your pain. And when you look at the pain of a people, all people have pain, but when you look at the pain of those who have endured chattel slavery, endured emancipation, then deconstruction of that emancipation, and then to Jim Crow, all the way now to lack of access to capital, lack of access to opportunity. I think the real issue is how does innovation really help this whole startup paradigm that everybody's talking about? Well, let's look at the wealth gap in America. The average, not income, but wealth, the average net worth of a white American family is $140,000+. An Asian American family, Indian American family is about $100,000+, and that's primarily because of their interest in technology and innovation. Latino Americans, $13,000. African Americans, $11,000. So our thesis is, how do you disrupt and close the wealth gap? Save, start, invest. Now, saving is going to take you a long time. It used to be this narrative about jobs, right? If we could only get a job, then we get out of poverty. And then we live beyond our means, proving to each other that, I'm making more than you, driving better than you. And that's how we anesthetize our pain many times. But now it's save, start, invest. Saving is going to take you a long time. But you start a high-growth company that is scalable, not just a service-based, supply chain-based company. Those are great, but those provide great lifestyles. A high-growth company not only gets the founder or the co-founder out of poverty, but it gets those advisors, that management team as well. And then finally, invest. When you talk about that frontier of why there are only a couple of Black-owned or majority Black-owned entrepreneurial centers, is because I think that there's also a mutual responsibility on our community, those who've had opportunities like government contracts or corporate supply contracts, to understand how the capital markets work. You make money, then you invest money. So the frontier for African Americans, women, minorities, is to also be those investors ourselves.
Roy, I know you're involved with funding entrepreneurs who struggle to find capital from elsewhere. What do you do, and what needs to happen more to channel resources, investment, capital to small entrepreneurs?
Ron Busby, president of U.S. Black Chambers. If you ask 90% of small businesses what their number one concern it will be access to capital. But if you ask 100% of Black firms or minority firms what their number 1, 2, and 3 concern is, it will be access to capital.
Yeah, that's right.
The SBA's ideal loan for a small business in 2014 was $454,000. That's the size of the loan that the SBA wanted to guarantee. The average Black firm does annualized revenue of $72,000 a year. So if the Black firms that we own across the country, and there's 2 million plus Black firms, even if we quadrupled our annualized revenue, we would still not be a good loan to the majority banks. So we have to attack this in 2 ways to ensure that they have the access to capital that they need, because in our community, the number one concern is unemployment. There's relatively 1.9 million unemployed African Americans right now today. That's the bad news. The good news is that there's 1.9 million African American owned firms right now today. The problem is, of the 1.9 million firms that we own and operate, 1.8 million are not mom and pop, but they're mom or pop.